A submarine with the Colorado emblem was hit at the tail after temporarily stopping for repairs. Quickly restoring the system, Captain Bowie fired a ballistic missile towards his own country right after the missile explosion. Why would a submarine launch a missile at its own country? Just moments ago, the world's most advanced submarine was testing new weapons. Alongside the battle group, it was clear that Pakistan aimed to target the Navy military. Captain Maris and Deputy Captain Sam sought answers from the Navy soldiers, but to no avail. The captain was indifferent, confident in possessing the world's most advanced submarine, which had been submerged for 56 days, ensuring their stealth. This was a moment of relief for the crew. Once crossing the equator, they would play music and joyfully celebrate. However, the joy was short-lived as a loud sound echoed through the submarine. The submarine received an urgent order to launch nuclear missiles from the command. The target was Pakistan. The captain and deputy captain took emergency keys and confirmed the launch code. 4 ballistic missiles were ready to be targeted, and the captain, with a heavy heart, initiated the launch. He wondered why such an order was given. It could only mean Washington was destroyed or inoperable. Starting the second-tier network, the captain communicated through not willing to use the second-tier network unless Washington was leveled. The captain called the National Command requesting permission to launch the first-tier missile network only when Washington was destroyed. But using the first-tier network to issue the command was against the rules. If they launched the missiles autonomously, over 40 million Pakistani lives would be lost. Maris was relieved of duty, and Sam took over, so not willing to use the second-tier network unless Washington was leveled. The captain called the National Command requesting permission to launch the first-tier missile network only when Washington was destroyed. But using the first-tier network to issue the command was against the rules. If they launched the missiles autonomously, over 40 million Pakistani lives would be lost. Maris was relieved of duty, and Sam took over, surprisingly making the same request. The NATO surveillance station on a nearby island detected the trajectory of the ballistic missile and confirmed on TV the news that the Colorado submarine was shot down by Pakistan. Subsequently, 2 missiles exploded in Pakistan. The captain investigated and discovered that the missile attacking the submarine came from their own country's submarine. Determined to get answers, the captain decided to surface and face the sun. The islanders were astonished at the sight of the colossal iron object surfacing. This submarine, hailed as the masterpiece of the sea god, raised questions about its unexpected appearance. Little did they know that this submarine would hold the key to unraveling the mystery. Marcus led the crew ashore, taking control of the NATO surveillance station, now under his command along with the submarine. Lieutenant Grace, the response from the other side implicated Pakistan, as per the White House statement. The situation was far from clear, and the general was unsure of the internal intricacies. Marcus realized that Washington had changed. First, their own country's ballistic missiles attacked the Colorado submarine, and then a catastrophe befell Pakistan, claiming the lives of 162 submarine crew members in this unexpected war. While Marcus spoke with his girlfriend, unaware that she was being monitored by the military surveillance, the power went out. A rogue submariner caused this, informing Washington about the situation. Maris received a call from the command, informing him of 2 bombers heading his way in response to their launch pad 001. The bombers were also heading towards Washington, but the enemy refused to negotiate, wanting to exploit the president's orders. Marcus defiantly refused to comply with the order, ensuring that if the bombers didn't retract their missiles within 2 minutes, the command center would be destroyed. The bombers approached rapidly, and, unexpectedly, Marcus changed his mind, wanting the enemy to understand the consequences. He refused to initiate the self-destruct sequence, informing the command that he would retaliate if necessary. The bombers continued their approach, drawing closer. With a heavy heart, Marcus prepared to demonstrate the power of his arsenal. At the last moment, the bombers turned away. Marcus laughed grimly. The missile streaked through the sky, exploding 200 miles from the capital, causing no casualties but sending a powerful message. Marcus addressed the world through satellite TV, declaring the island a 200-mile radius exclusion zone. Everything he did was to quickly explain the situation to the world. Sam was surprised by Marcus's decision, sensing a different concern in his heart. Marcus, now contemplating another. As they returned to the submarine, the sonar screen displayed 2 submarines with 16 objects on the sea advancing towards the radar station. The radar also detected 20 ships approaching them within 200 miles. In 48 hours, they would be surrounded by 38 warships. An Illinois submarine, bearing the same emblem, was clearly planning to attack. Marcus had a plan in mind, ordering the activation of the new PUS weapon. The T submarine would vanish from the opponent's radar screen, but Sam disagreed. He hoped Marcus would communicate with Washington to resolve the misunderstanding. As the captain, Marcus now had the full attention, with at least 20 warships advancing towards them. Their allies were turning into enemies, and Sam was overwhelmed. Maris knew that negotiating with Washington required demonstrating strength. After this incident, Washington lost its initiative. Colorado, equipped with such advanced weaponry, could navigate the seas freely. With 18 nuclear-tipped missiles on board, enough to erase several countries from the map, Washington faced a challenging situation. As they approached the island, the surveillance station also detected a civilian plane repeatedly entering the restricted area, despite numerous warnings. Marcus ordered the opening of the missile compartment, signaling that Washington had initiated an attack. He predicted that the renowned Delta Force would arrive in 6 hours, ready to engage in combat. Sam and the crew sought help from the Navy forces, acknowledging their expertise on land operations. The crew, along with Sam, took the route where the Delta Force would have to pass through, setting up an ambush. As the enemy fell into their sights, they were swiftly targeted. Before they could open fire, Sam stepped forward, dropping her weapon and resolving the situation peacefully. "We're all Americans. I don't know why I'm here, but let's solve this without bloodshed," she asserted. However, to everyone's surprise, the opponent wasn't the Delta Force. They weren't American troops, they were Russian soldiers. A fierce battle ensued, and the submarine crew began to surrender continuously. Some even fled. The American forces were overwhelmed, and Grace, rushing out with a gun. As the U.S. forces were relentlessly attacked, some chose to run. The situation seemed dire, but to everyone's surprise, Navy forces emerged, advising the American troops to retreat. They symbolized the triumph of the nation, signifying that whatever happened here would be courageously dealt with. The submarine crew, experts at sea, were clearly outmatched on land against the Russian forces. The remaining Russian troops withdrew, leaving behind casualties and wounded. They took 2 Russian soldiers alive. The advanced PUS system installed on the submarine proved effective. When activated, neither radar nor sonar could detect its presence, leaving the enemy blinded and vulnerable. 833, here is where its strength lies. This woman is the provider of that weaponry. At this moment, she is celebrating the success of her tested technique on the submarine. This system supports the launch of 18 missiles in just 5 minutes. Once these missiles ascend into the sky, there is no weapon in the world that can counter them. However, her revelry is cut short as the military personnel intervene, warning her that this technology will be restricted for the sake of national security. Sam, on the other hand, despite capturing 2 Russian soldiers, witnesses the sacrifice of 5 Maris steps in to prevent her, stating that as military personnel, they shouldn't succumb to excessive rage. Revenge might offer a momentary sense of satisfaction, but it's essential to understand one's identity as a U.S. Navy member aboard the Colorado submarine. Always reminded not to misuse authority, Maris recalls the incident where Lieutenant Joseph was confined for opposing his views. Disappointed by the turn of events, Joseph is asked for help, and Marcus hopes he can investigate the situation thoroughly. After Marcus's persuasion, Joseph reluctantly agrees to accompany them. The local residents, witnessing this scene, see a pocket watch handed to Officer Jam. Looking at the watch, he seems to grasp something. It is the possession of the missing person. At this point, they are in the stronghold of the local power, and the presence of the submarine significantly affects their livelihood and dominant position. A man named Julian, leading the local power, has felt the impact of Marcus and his crew on the island, threatening his authority. He kidnaps 3 members of the submarine crew, demanding a high price for their release. Sam tries to negotiate with Julian, requesting a conversation. However, Julian takes the female sailor into a room, and when they re-emerge, her fellow comrades are surprised by her silence. Another crew member speaks up, stating that it's not what she said but what she did. Suddenly, Julian's subordinate rushes them down to the labor camp. It turns out to be a guard from the surveillance station who brings Marcus here. His intention is to find the missing crew members. The conversation appears friendly on the surface, but both parties have their own hidden agendas. Julian, with his previous experience, believes that Marcus's actions have caused dissatisfaction among the villagers. In the last operation, the villagers requested Marcus to transport supplies from outside the quarantine zone. In return, Julia would help him find the 3 missing crew members. The deadline is before sunrise tomorrow. Facing this challenging mission, Marcus knows the opposition is deliberately complicating matters, but he has no other choice. He doesn't want to resort to violence as approaching the naval blockade zone. The submarine activates its sonar masking system. This is crucial for submarines to move freely within domestic waters without being detected by other vessels. However, time is running out for them. In 9 hours, if they don't return in time, they won't be able to reunite with their 3 missing teammates. As the submarine prepares to, however, on the way back to rescue the submarine crew, the entire submarine suddenly goes dark. The sonar masking system is overloaded, leading to an imbalance in the system. If not turned off, there's a risk of power loss. Once turned off, escaping the warship's radar becomes challenging. In a desperate move, Marcus orders the submarine to dive silently despite the submarine being targeted by an underwater missile from the destroyer ship, it manages to escape the blockade. In the final moments, as sunlight pierces through the water, the submarine slowly rises above the surface. However, Julian has run out of patience. Marcus delayed the transaction, resulting in the loss of a crew member. Still, Julian hesitates to confront Marcus directly, knowing that the sniper on Marcus's team, is armed with explosives. Additionally, he must resist the imminent attack from the U.S. Navy. Conflict erupts within the submarine bearing the Colorado emblem. Just moments ago, the submarine received information declaring Marcus and Sam as traitors. This was due to their firing a missile towards Washington, severely jeopardizing national security. Hearing this news, the submarine crew starts to doubt, causing a divide among them. The 2 former captains on the island also come under attack. Kevin demands the submarine to exit the 200 nautical mile zone and surrender to the U.S. Navy. The Secretary of Defense does not want them alive, so returning to the crew is a risky decision. Unexpectedly, Washington's decision shakes the trust of the submarine crew in the government. Marcus, despite Washington's criticism, receives an invitation for negotiation. However, it turns out to be a condemnation, criticizing them for not fulfilling their duty by simply pressing a button. Furious, Marcus flips the table, causing unexpected resistance from the Secretary of Defense. The demand is simple: a public trial in civilian court and charges against the entire submarine crew. Facing resistance, Marcus vents his anger, flipping the table even though the opposition is the Secretary of Defense. In reality, Marcus's request is straightforward: a public trial in civilian court and indictments for the entire submarine crew. However, The Secretary of Defense finds this request too simple, likening it to the U.S. government publicly announcing their illegal actions. Never apologize, Captain. Don't expect them to apologize either. They represent the U.S. government in these negotiations. The U.S. government never apologizes. If they don't agree to our demands, I will lead the entire Navy and Marines stationed in Pakistan to come forward. Everything will be exposed, Marcus declared. Reluctantly, the Secretary of Defense conceded, allowing them to return home with just a few years of imprisonment. However, Marcus insisted on amnesty for the entire crew and an apology from the government. Finally, the Secretary handed over a signed document granting the President's pardon and acquittal for the entire crew. But they had to return the submarine and Navy personnel on board. Marcus and Sam violated the regulations of Article 92 and had to face trial. Marcus refused, demanding a public trial, exceeding the limits set by both parties. Negotiations reached an impasse. The Secretary believed that conflict would arise as everyone prepared to sign the agreement. Unexpectedly, the Deputy Secretary suddenly pulled out a revolver and handed over a signed declaration to end it all. To his surprise, she received orders from the Navy to eliminate the submarine. The Rear Admiral, aware that his daughter was still on board, decisively drew his gun, fatally shooting the Deputy Secretary and injuring the Secretary. However, this action did not stop Grace on the submarine, who swiftly retaliated by launching torpedoes. The torpedoes quickly exploded, creating a dense smoke screen. The USS Colorado moved into the smoke screen to escape pursuit. Subsequently, they released water from the ballast tanks to reach the required depth to launch the missiles. The missile bay doors opened, revealing 4 armed. A few days earlier, Joseph had discovered a member using illegal substances, and it turned out to be one of Julian's subordinates. Joseph intervened swiftly, resolving the issue. However, Julian sought revenge, strapping explosives to the Navy personnel and bringing them to the Central Market on the island. A Navy officer successfully defused the bomb, neutralizing the new threat. After several confrontations with Julian, Marcus couldn't hold back any longer. Leading the Navy, he stormed into Julian's hideout. Unbeknownst to Julian, Marcus had reached his breaking point. Forget being a military man, he was now a rebel. He ordered his subordinates to deal with the offender directly. Enough of your provocations. You won't taunt me anymore. I'll make you feel the pain. Poison on Joseph's body. Washington contacted Julian, exploiting the conflict between him and Marcus to strike a deal. The intelligence agency planted a mole, and now Marcus would be held responsible for any actions that could harm the country. The intelligence agent, who happened to be the kidnapped female Navy officer, was now in the hands of the U.S. intelligence. Sam, just waking from the stupor, found everyone on the island affected by an unknown chemical attack. The intelligence agency capitalized on the conflict between Marcus and the local power to further their agenda. Julian's men contaminated the island's water source with a substance that induced altered behavior upon ingestion. Sam spotted Officer James, and both decided to investigate the cause. Besides the affected residents on the island, the Navy personnel on the submarine. Suddenly, the intelligence agent, arriving on the island, subdued 2 Navy officers, capturing one who possessed evidence of Washington's attack on Pakistan. This evidence, once in someone else's hands, would prove detrimental to the U.S. government. As the intelligence operative took control of the surveillance station, she tried to establish contact with Washington. Sam and James rushed in, ultimately defusing the imminent threat. However, the ordeal did not end there. Marcus, regaining consciousness on the submarine, restored the oxygen supply. It seemed someone had saved him. Attempting to contact Sam, Marcus sought out Sam, revealing the entire situation and urgently requesting him to find the mole. Days later, Marcus received news from Washington. They sent a ship to the island for supplies and arranged a meeting with Marcus and the others. As Marcus contemplated their intentions, the boat was attacked by Pakistani forces. On board were the loved ones of the crew members, with the sole purpose of meeting the submarine's captain, who possessed 17 ballistic missiles. The captain was forcibly brought out, asked to surrender a list of relatives. However, he claimed he didn't know the details. Aware that these individuals were expendable, the captain reluctantly agreed to the enemy's demands. He ordered the entire crew to assemble for combat, prepared for the impending threat from the Pakistani forces. The Pakistani general, recalling Washington's missile launch on Pakistan, hoped to exploit the submarine's missiles to counter an imminent Indian invasion. If Marcus refused their demands, they would use the lives of their loved ones as leverage. The general couldn't bear to kill innocent civilians, but 1 minute into the countdown, a gunshot echoed. A loved one was shot and thrown into the sea. The next victim would be dealt with 30 minutes later. The general expressed disdain for his actions, acknowledging the disgrace he had brought upon himself. However, as a Muslim, a father, and a military man, he felt he had no choice. The captain wondered if Marcus cared about their loved ones, but with the captain's hands tied, the unthinkable happened. The captain had only one missile launch key, rendering him unable to initiate the missile launch. He decided to buy time, waiting for Sam and 3 Navy soldiers to get into position for a rescue mission. Despite knowing the slim chances, he attempted to delay the inevitable while trying to contact the Secretary of Defense, hoping for assistance. As the general lost patience, he ordered the execution of another hostage. While waiting, the captain wondered what they were waiting for and why they wouldn't launch the missiles. The intelligence agent witnessed the entire scene and, out of disdain, took the key. Unexpectedly, she returned it to Marcus. Without dwelling too much on the miracle, he opened the missile compartment, connecting it to the general's room. He demanded the release of the hostages within the next 2 minutes, or he would launch. Washington realized they couldn't launch the missiles towards India. Marcus suggested they don't cross the Pakistan border, utilizing his own methods to not only resolve the India situation but also enabling Sam to neutralize the Pakistani forces timely. This crisis was averted, and Marcus, having lost faith in Washington, declared that there would be no law, no punishment, only battle. Today, they were in a war zone, not a prison. He didn't want to go home anymore, but Joseph had different plans. He and his accomplices were plotting in the control room. They seized Marcus's control of the submarine, and despite Marcus's objections, they changed their objective. Their goal was no longer returning home but steering the submarine to another country to sell it. Joseph vehemently opposed, but he was stabbed by Grace. Sensing an opportunity, Joseph escaped. Marcus and Sam took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the engine room, damaging the power unit. The energy supply system vanished along with the pus system. Sam contacted the island surveillance station, requesting the U.S. military to surround the submarine. The military gave orders to destroy it. With 1 more minute, the submarine collided with a coral reef in shallow waters, providing an opportunity for bombers. The traitorous Navy personnel, seeing the failed plan, prepared to launch the 3 ballistic missiles. However, due to the submarine being stuck in shallow waters, the missile launch failed. The bombers immediately destroyed the submarine. Besides Marcus, others who had left the submarine earlier witnessed a series of unexpected events. The imminent threat was once again averted. However, the story didn't end there. Callie approached Sam's girlfriend, delivering the evidence to her. Afterward, Sam's girlfriend met with reporters, and soon, the truth was revealed to the public. Upon learning the complete truth, Marcus lost all trust in Washington.